This video is an open letter to President Donald Trump. My name is Rachid, and people know me by Brother Rachid. As a former Muslim, I just want to say thank you for standing for the truth. Thank you for standing against Islamic extremism and Islamic terrorism. And thank you for naming it what it is, Islamic terrorism, without any political correctness. We need brave people like you. So thank you again for doing that. Thank you also for standing against Qatar. Qatar is a big player for Islamic extremism and Islamic terrorism, especially through their media arm, Al Jazeera. Al Jazeera did a lot of damage, and I lived in Morocco. I lived enough to see how much damage Al Jazeera did. Al Jazeera was promoting hatred toward the West, especially toward United States. Al Jazeera is still doing that until today. So thank you for standing against Qatar. I'm not saying this just by myself, but on behalf of so many former Muslims who were hurt by Islam and Islamic extremism. We want to thank you, but we have also some concerns to express. So allow me, Mr. President, to express our concerns. Our concerns are related to Saudi Arabia. How Saudi Arabia is different than Qatar. Saudi Arabia actually is the biggest player in the region. Saudi Arabia promoted Islamic extremism and Islamic terrorism as well, through their educational system, through their books, through their Islamic centers, and they did it everywhere, in the Muslim world, in Europe, in Asia, and even in the United States. So fighting Islamic extremism and Islamic terrorism through Qatar is not going to help much. It's actually just taking one player out of the game, but leaving the biggest player there, Saudi Arabia. Saudi Arabia is not only promoting hatred and promoting their version of Islam, they are also not allowing any competing ideas, any competing worldviews, any competing religions. Saudi Arabia stands against religious freedom and freedom of speech. And actually, until today, there is a guy named Raif Badawi. He's still in jail. Just by expressing himself on the internet about some doctrines in Islam. He was sentenced to 10 years and 1,000 lashes. And he's still there until this video was done. Saudi Arabia is actually like ISIS when it comes to applying Sharia. They have hand amputation like ISIS. They have lashing people in front of publicly like ISIS. And they have crucifixions like ISIS. So taking Qatar and leaving Saudi Arabia just puzzled us. Why Saudi Arabia is not questioned about their practices and promoting extremism everywhere. We need to actually promote and advocate for religious freedom and freedom of speech, because without doing that, we are not going to beat terrorism and Islamic extremism. Without any ideas competing and any worldviews competing, we are just pouring the water in the sand, as we say. Saudi Arabia is not allowing any of that. And not just Saudi Arabia, actually so many Muslim countries, people like me are facing death when we leave Islam, because the texts say so. The texts say whoever left his religion, kill him. That's a hadith, an authentic hadith. So there is no way to beat Islamic extremism without addressing it in its roots. And that's another point we want to raise in this video. How come we want to fight Islamic terrorism and we are fighting just the symptoms? We are not fighting the root. The root is in the text. For example, hand amputation, it's in the text. It's in Surah 5 and verse 38. Crucifixion. And it's in Surah 5 actually, verse 33. lashing people is in Surat 24, verse 2. And so on. Jihad in so many verses and so many surahs. And without addressing those issues from the root, we are doing nothing actually. We are just fighting the symptoms and not killing the actual cause. So we have to allow people to express their opinions, to debate, to challenge these ideas and see the best idea win at the end. Religious freedom is the main thing actually we need to advocate for. So without doing that, we are not fighting Islamic extremism. We're just slowing it down somehow. So again, Mr. President, on behalf of so many former Muslims, actually thousands are leaving Islam and choosing different paths. Some of us choose to be Christians, some of us choose to be atheists, some of us choose to be agnostics, some of us took other paths. But all of us, we had the same fight. We fought for our freedoms. We fought for having the right to choose whatever we want for our lives. And by doing so, we paid a big price. Some of us were killed. Some of us left their countries, not willingly, by force, because they don't have religious freedom in Muslim countries. And some of us still there, silenced or in jail, paying a big price for doing so, for leaving Islam or expressing their opinions. So on behalf of these people, I'm asking you, Mr. President, to stand for religious freedom and freedom of speech. Without doing that, we are not fighting Islamic extremism and Islamic terrorism. So we want to thank you, but we want to ask you to stand and advocate for people like me and for religious freedom and for freedom of speech everywhere, especially in Saudi Arabia. And again, thank you for standing for the truth.